Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Accelerator with Michael Conniff. This is a podcast that is for entrepreneurs, startups, founders, and also on the other side of the coin, venture capitalists, angels, investors, family offices, basically anyone interested in investing in a startup. We never recommend that people buy stocks or invest in companies. We try to stick to our guns in terms of companies that we find interesting and fun and good to keep an eye on. And one of those is a company based in Italy and Singapore called Fvtura, and we are joined by Andrea Gianmarco, who is the head of the operation. Welcome to you, Andrea. Great to have you on the Accelerator.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for inviting me here, and great to be your guest in this episode.
Yes, no, it's great to have you. And what I find particularly interesting about your company, I want to spell it for people. It's actually F, V as in Victor, T as in Tom, URA. So you call it Futura, but it's like spelled a little funky. So just
Yeah.
so you know where to find it. But Andrea has a company that he describes as a venture builder, rather than describes himself as a venture builder too, rather than just a plain old venture capitalist. So what's the difference?
The main difference is in the support that startups receive. So, normally, with an incubator, an accelerator, or a venture capital, a startup gets either access to funding or to network, to mentorship, and that's about it. While on a venture builder, usually there is much more involvement when it comes to operations, building the projects. So, for example, here we have 70% of all the resources in terms of manpower that a startup might need, from coding to marketing, design, branding, everything, you name it. Everything that a startup needs, we have it in house in terms of a team. And that team gets borrowed to the startup for the time that it needs.
And how did you come to that formulation? In other words, what led you down that road of providing additional support to startups?
Well, I guess the pain as an entrepreneur on the first place. Um,
Yes, indeed.
I've been an entrepreneur for the past 15 years. And I knocked that I don't know how many doors when I needed to have support, to have some help, to have some experience, literally anything. And I've never found a place where I could find everything I needed from a trusted partner and absolutely, definitely not at a decent price. And actually, all our services that we offer to startup, we don't charge startups nothing, anything, not a single dollar. And I would have dreamed to have that this type of support, and like me, hundreds of entrepreneurs.
Do you give them any money and take an ownership stake, take an equity stake?
Yes, we do. So we do also some investment into these startups, and we take some equity, and then in that way we know and they know that we are all aligned towards the same direction. We don't take anything upfront, like any upfront fee, basically no money. So we need to make it succeed in order to have a positive return.
And what is a typical equity position for you in one of your 8 projects?
It really depends on the stage of the startup. So far at the moment, we are only building startups that are developed internally by the talents that we are scouting out there. So what we do is finding talents. We do a 3-month program where we teach them a lot about entrepreneurship, about verticals specific that they're passionate about it. And then from these talents, we form groups, and from these groups we form companies. Usually after all these end up having around 50% of the equity, and the
Mm.
rest is for the group, the team, although
Mhm.
we put all the resources, I would say more of what is needed in the initial
Yeah.
phase.
So
um,
you take a big chunk, but you do a
yeah.
lot. um,
Yeah.
obviously. And so, what is the most important thing that you teach the entrepreneurs in that 3 month training window that you have?
Uh, Actually, the 3 months is only the beginning because then after the 3 months, there is a 12 months of building the startup. So we keep training, teaching about everything from finance to operations to project management. Is awareness. It might come as a surprise, but it's actually awareness because first and most important, we want to know that the entrepreneur knows what the challenges that he's going to face, um, achieve. So we want to be sure that entrepreneurs have their in the right place so that they're doing something because they believe it, because they can see the future impact, they have a vision. And so being really important, but also of their skill set. What are their strengths? What are their weakness? The awareness about the company, the project, what is trying to achieve. Yeah,
Sure. And you started doing this in Singapore, and
yeah.
now you're also doing it in Italy. So is your team kind of split between those two countries?
Yes, actually, we have team members in quite a bit of countries. 10 countries right now between Vietnam, Europe, North America, South America. And because of COVID, they cannot join us, all of them in Tuscany. So we are planning to have a very large gathering sooner here.
Well, listen, everyone wants to go to Tuscany. I've been there. I would go back in a heartbeat. It's a good reason to go there. But you have 8 companies under your wing now. What can you tell us about those 8 companies? And are they in any specific industries? Are they at a specific stage in development? What do they have in common, and how are they different?
Well, I mean, they have two things in common for sure. One is the impact. So everything we do, everything we touch, it must be a project that is improving or it aims to improve thousands or millions of people's lives.
So
So
impact
that's
investing. Impact
yeah,
investing is a
yeah.
common thread. Yes. Okay.
That's the minimum like requirement. And the other thing is that all these projects are interconnected. So one of the advantages of building in-house projects is that they have two functionalities. One, of course, they are a project, so a company that is running on its own. But on the other side, they are a piece of infrastructure to support other projects. I
Okay.
can
What would be
make
an example? Yeah. What would be an example of a piece of infrastructure?
so one of the projects that is being launched right now, actually next week, is a community platform, which is a business network for startups, entrepreneurs, governments, large corporations together. So where we can link all these people and we can foster and we can empower them with opportunities, with resources. On top of it, we are going to build a launch pad. So these projects in the future will be able to do crowdfunding and fundraise directly from this private network. It's like saying with a bigger mission and
Yeah.
purpose when it comes to startups.
Well, make sure to invite me. That sounds really interesting, and you were nice enough
Definitely.
to show it to me, which is exciting. So let's talk about the individual companies. You've got 8 in the pipeline, and you've launched one in the farming space. What is that company like?
So that's one of the projects that I love the most, and I think it really embodies and represent the and the purpose of what we're doing. So these companies start from a need, from trying to figure out better solution for producing food worldwide. Population is aiming to be well right now is in the trajectory of reaching 10 billion people by 2050. um, and the issue with farming and production is that there is not enough space and enough manpower to fulfill right now that we need to boost our production by 30% at least,
Mm.
and definitely there is not 30% more spare land for farming. So the team of experts, biotech farming experts got together. We had more than 1 year of just brainstorming, market research, studies, testing. We called companies, experts from everywhere in the world, from South Africa to North America to Canada to Southeast Asia. All of this to understand the impact. So we know that the farming industry is one of the largest, if not the largest, when right. It's also the largest when it comes to employment. So there are a lot of things connected together, and is one of the industries that have seen the less or smallest changes from technologies in the past decades, because it's an industry that is usually in a way from father to son to father and so on, and so it had little innovation compared to us. And so after this year of brainstorming and analysis, we highlighted a few solutions that could be viable, scalable, and really would solve the problem of farming and food production. And the best of the best was this vertical farming system that we call bioponic, that is with fishes, and hydroponic, which is just vertical farming, but with pure fertilizers and chemical pesticides needs. What we saw in aquaponic is that, of course, the fish side is not scalable, because you need to have large tanks with fishes, you need to feed them, aside the ethical part of it, which is another question, another point. There's also a problem of not being able to utilize the system in rural areas of the world, which, by the way, are the most productive when it comes to farming. So we needed something that was not delicate, like aquaponic, and also hydroponic, as it is right now, since it's depending on chemical fertilizers. It also needs a special requirements. You need greenhouses that are full sterile, like they must be really close from the outside environment, because there is not bacterial culture within the systems, and so any pathogens, any external agent might affect this hydroponic system, and the entire thing might die, all the plants in it. We needed to solve all these problems, and so these bioponic systems are vertical farming system, but they have large tanks with bacterial cultures, where we put inside the compost, the standard urban compost that is coming from this. Could be coffee, could be when they cut the grass, it could be anything that is organic, basically. And after a mechanical process, it gets fed into the system, and the bacteria start to process all these elements, and they transform it in something that is viable and can be assimilated by the plants. And all of this brings a massive resiliency into this system, because any external agent, any pathogen, gets digested by bacteria, and so it doesn't reach the plants. And they don't even need to be inside greenhouses. Now we can build vertical farmings outside in the field, or if cities have unutilized spaces, well, we can do it there as well. And that has a massive potential. I mean, just to share a couple of numbers about that. About the impact. Imagine that we can save up to 90% of floor space compared to normal standard monoculture. We save about 98% of clean water into that, because all the water is recycled. I mean, water is going to be such a large problem in the future, because finding fresh water, clean water in rural areas is very challenging. Even if we extract it from the sea, I mean, it takes a lot of energies and resources. So saving 98% of water is a massive impact. Carbon emission, we can reduce carbon emissions by over 80%, which is huge. And all these projects like this one are the ones that we like to get involved, because we see the impact on potentially billions of people. And
Yeah,
That's
that's a really good one. And so you have 7 others. What can you tell us about them?
well, another one is which we really love is the campus. So we have built this large 8,000 square meter campus here in Tuscany for entrepreneurs, for students to alternative to university, and is, I mean, 90% of the program is sponsored by us and by our partners, so it's very, very accessible. And here students learn about these technologies, learn about the works of the future, like working in the into the waste management space, in all the industries that are going to be essential in the future and that today are not proper. And we invite students
How
from in the
many
Hmm?
I was gonna say, how many students are gonna go through that system, go through that program?
Right now, our limited capacity is about 500 students
Oh, that's not
per
very
year.
limited. That's a lot. A lot. That's not so limited. That's
But
exciting.
we would love to do more. We have 40 educators, but I mean that's is a
Speaking
start.
Italian or speaking, what are they speaking?
English,
English?
English, yeah,
English?
yeah. Our
Okay.
main language here is English, so that's a commonality.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
all our team members they speak more than here in total in Tuscany here at least 12 languages, from South
Oh
Korean
my,
to Chinese to Spanish.
that's great. That's impressive. So you've got the school, you've got the vertical farming. What else is in the works?
Something that we really really love, and of course is controversial, is a sharing economy and a new economic model program. So we are seeing, and some of us come from finance. So like me, other team members come from finance, some other members blockchain and coding industry. Um, we see a lot of hype right now, blockchain, about decentralized systems, but we also see that 90% is pure speculation. The substance behind is not yet there year by year. The project that we have in this new economic model is to create an alternative system for people that today have no access to resources to actually receive a kind of credit from the community by being able to provide services or by doing mm, other type of supports for the community. One thing that we experiment is earn to learn program, where we are actually giving credits for people to learn, and then they can
Hmm,
utilize these credits within the community to get access to other services.
I
uh,
see.
and I
Yeah,
mean
so
that's kind of,
you're really building a lot of it is community.
yeah, yeah, because exactly, and that's the other common point among these projects, that all interconnected. By studying campus, we are actually forming the entrepreneurs of the future, and so
Yeah,
then they can
yeah.
join the projects. By building alternative economies, we can create a community that has more resources and more liquidity to be able to build startups, to build new initiatives, because that's one of the things that entrepreneurs miss at the beginning. They have no access to capitals, but in a they can share skills, tools, resources. Well, then things changes a lot, and you can help them save 80-90% of what normally would cost a startup.
We are talking to Andrea Gianmarco. He is the head of Fvtura, which is based in Tuscany, Italy, also in Singapore, started out in Singapore. And before we talk about the future, tell me, are there any other of these startups that you are particularly excited about? I know you're excited about them all, or you wouldn't be doing them. But what
Yeah.
do you think? Is there another one that might have a profound effect?
Well, I think I was slightly mentioning earlier about the Launchpad. I think that
Yeah,
is pretty interesting because it's a platform that connects investors with entrepreneurs. And something
yeah,
that we do is measuring the impact, so giving each startup. And today this does not exist.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, that sounds very interesting. Now, what about? I know that your plan, unlike most entrepreneurs and many venture builders, your plan is not to go to the United States, but to go elsewhere. So, why avoid the United States, and why and where else are you going?
Well, for the same reasons as we are avoiding big cities right now. So even in Tuscany, I mean, we are definitely not in the large cities in Italy like Milan, Rome, or Turin. Uh, we are here because we want to serve the most underserved communities and countries. Because a lot of entrepreneurs they started this journey places like this, and then they have to move all the way that are very expensive, and basically they get absorbed into those cities.
Yeah,
They need to live renting the house. They need to deal with visa. I mean, if they go abroad, handling visa is a pain, so much time, so much resources.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
we want to bring opportunities to them before they commit all these mistakes, which of course are experiences, but a lot of them will then come back experience financially broken. And so we want to bring opportunities where are the most needed.
Venture building, supporting the entrepreneurs. Now, what was your first company like?
Well, I was in actually, I started in 2007 with financial algorithms, and I started in that industry because at that time was one of the few industries with a low entry barrier.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the industries you really need resources backing you up behind even before you start. But finance, I found it that there was more meritocracy because at the end of the day, companies, investors, they look only at one thing, like your performance good, you move ahead. If you don't, then you are and you have time to improve. While in most of the other industries, is not that easy. Even if you're skilled, even if you're good, but you don't know people, you have a little network, oh, then it's going to be very challenging.
And that was
So yeah, it
challenging
was.
for you, it sounds like. That was hard.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Would
Um,
you say you succeeded at that company, or did you kind of move on?
No, I succeeded. I mean, at 25 years, I was CEO of this large financial investment company. We had more than $100 million under management.
Wow.
And at 27 years old, I did my exit from finance. And then I invested everything into Futura. I mean, I actually donated it because I don't want anything back. So everything I'm doing here at Futura, I'm doing it for the next generation, not to get something out of it.
Yeah.
So finance
You have a kind heart. It's Futura.com, spelled a little funky.
yeah,
F
FV.
V T U R A.com, pronounced Futura. And it's an extremely interesting and I think far-sighted enterprise because you're trying to do some good. You're doing the impact investing. But what I hear most of all is you're trying to build a community that can really carry this forward and grow and help people from making the obvious mistakes. So it's really interesting. What do you think is the biggest challenge for you and for Futura moving forward?
I think.
I just lost your video,
Ah,
Andrea. You might just
let
check that.
me turning on. Can you
No,
still
this
hear me?
isn't. I can still hear you, and this is a podcast, so it's not the end of the world.
Ah,
If we
okay,
lose
okay,
if we lose your voice, it's the end of the world. But no, this is there. We go. Yeah,
okay.
go right ahead. Podcast
Oh,
listeners,
sorry.
just ignore that last 30 seconds because it's not relevant. But yeah, what do you think about?
Yeah,
What's your dream for this business?
I think the biggest challenge is to match the interests of investors with the need of creating an impact. So the biggest challenge, it comes also from awareness, like
Hmm.
finding people that are aware of what is happening right now in the world, finding entrepreneurs that understand that they can play a much bigger role in society than what they actually think. And the same for investors. There is this very little awareness right now, and that is very challenging, and it's not that easy to fill up the gap, but I can say that is getting better year
Do
by
you think
year.
do you think it's because essentially, I mean, it is the venture capital business. We all remember the movie Wall Street, where Michael Douglas, the actor, gave the speech about greed is good. We hear
Mm,
over and over that the way you keep score is how much money you make, which I think is absolutely not
mm,
true.
yeah.
Um, but you're kind of swimming upstream against that. How do you make sure you win that one? That's a tough one.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we're doing, and again, is one of the projects of the ecosystem, is building a parallel economy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
changing the game, changing the rules of the game for the next generation is going to be essential. Right now, the millennials, so the people between 25 and 35, they have access to less than 3% of the total wealth.
Mm.
So there is a massive demand for resources out there, because this generation has to bear the responsibility to change the world for the future. They need to handle climate change. They need to handle 100 years of pollutions. They really have to face a lot of challenges, and they have no access to resources. So
How much of this is gets you to the discussion of blockchain and cryptocurrency and Web 3.0?
Well, I mean, we are deeply involved into the blockchain space, because we develop all the majority of the platforms and the part of the ecosystems that we are developing. They have blockchain into it. Um, Although the cryptocurrency is a different part of the game, because the majority of cryptocurrencies right now, they follow the same rules as dollar, euro. They're just cryptos. But
I see.
there are the same dynamics. There is the same terrible wealth distribution. So I think there is room for a massive improvement. And I think that the crypto space and the blockchain can do something that governments cannot do, which is changing and adapting very fast.
Hmm.
So I have more hope into that side, because there are a lot of experiments going on, and of course a lot of them will fail, but those that will succeed might actually be the economic systems of the future.
Yeah. Well, I really commend you. I think that you're fighting the good fight. You're trying to change the world and calling on other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs to be and venture capitalists and angels to be part of that. So I think what you have been saying is really significant, and I want to thank you for coming on the accelerator. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks to you, Michael. It's been really a great pleasure.
A pleasure for me too. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you in all things.
Thank you, Michael.